You're about to listen to Free Talk Live's Weekly Digest, some of the best segments from last week's Free Talk Live, as collected by super activist Benjamin Bartholomew. Don't forget, you can listen to every hour of Free Talk Live by going to freetalklive.com. Ryan, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hello.
Hey, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to let you know, first off, I'm a conservative guy. I consider myself conservative libertarian. I appreciate your show, and I agree with about half of what you're saying.
Only half?
Only about half. That's pretty good, though. That's pretty good.
Wow.
Hey, I'm a police officer in D.C., and I will tell you, even working drug and violence-stricken areas, I don't see your claim come to fruition as far as normal citizens committing felonies every day. I just don't see that. I think, for the most part, a good portion of people are pretty good and law-abiding citizens, however you want to call that. But you know, the thing with pot, I do have to agree with you on that, and I think we've gone down such a terrible road of misunderstanding, and it is brought on by the government from a lack of control. And you know, I have no problem with legalizing it and taxing it and help getting the deficit problem in this welfare state that the country's created underhand here.
Now, as a police officer, you're probably handling things like, you know, the real felonies, the ones that people are, you know, getting all the time. I don't know.
That's what he's thinking about, likely, when he thinks of felonies.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't read this book, 3 Felonies a Day. That's why I said it's a claim by an author. I really probably should read the Cliff's Notes of it just so that I can see what the author is making the claim on. But let me ask you this. I've got a good friend, a person that I know, have known for a long time. When I hurt myself badly, that person took me into their medicine cabinet and gave me some out-of-date oxycodones. Did that person commit a felony?
I mean, by the law, it depends on which state you reside in.
Well, I'm certainly not giving any information that I have. But basically, yes.
I'm not asking you. No.
Basically, yes.
I mean, if it's a felony in that state, yeah. I mean, it would be, yeah, absolutely.
How many people in America do you think have out-of-date medications in their medicine cabinet?
I don't know, hundreds of millions, or tens of millions.
How many people in America?
There's one felony.
Further than that, how many people in America have shared a prescription medication with a friend or family member because they wanted to help them out? There's another felony. But if you want to hang on, Ryan, I want to continue. He dropped off the line. I would have loved to have continued. Look, if you work for law enforcement, I think you've got an interesting perspective, and we love it when you call in. So feel free to call again.
All right, we were talking in the last segment about a study that just came out. Now, it's not published or peer-reviewed yet. I imagine it might be kind of controversial, right? Like, difficult to get peer-reviewed.
Would it be difficult to get peer-reviewed? I don't know. You know more about this than I do.
I think the process of peer review has some serious problems, maybe almost to the point of being broken, but it is traditionally how academic papers and studies are published. However, there's this, what we're talking about here is a study that's been authored by some professors saying that, essentially claiming that the Silk Road, the online marketplace for drugs, where people could buy things with Bitcoin, made the world of drugs safer and decreased the violence. So
I can't imagine that this is anything but true. But I love the fact that somebody's put out a paper and made the claim.
Absolutely. So we were just reading this part of this article here from Wired. The Silk Road, after all, became a bustling online drug bazaar, giving users a new way to deal in contraband anonymously. These crypto protections are designed to prevent anyone, including cops and competitors, from knowing where users are. According to University of...
If the cops did know where people were, like, the bad drug dealers can't find you, but the cops can. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's be serious. The bad drug dealers pay off the cops.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
obviously they don't want people to find each other, and this is the only way to be safe. This is the problem with contraband. Millions of people in the United States are buying drugs every day. There's your laws, which you've been trying to put out there for the last 4 decades. The war on drugs began with Nixon.
Have been a dismal failure.
A dismal, catastrophic, expensive failure. Please stop mortgaging your grandchildren's future for your propensity, your proclivities against drugs.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that people know the history of Prohibition and they're like, oh, yeah, clearly that didn't work. But prohibiting marijuana works. Yeah. Prohibiting the rest of drugs.
The funny thing about Prohibition is it actually did work. To some extent, it had success. Now, the problem is that the problem that existed at the time, the one problem it solved was there was a culture of drinking far greater in this country than even in countries around the world. You can see it places like, if you go to England where they didn't have Prohibition, those people drink, man. And farmers would wake up and drink beer for breakfast. They would brew things because the water wasn't always good. Mm-hmm. And so you would have a situation where people were low-level drunk all day, and then they drink at night till they passed out. And, well,
do you think there's not a culture of drinking now?
Not nearly as much. The problem with Prohibition is it created a situation where people were using distilled spirits rather than brewed spirits. Mm-hmm. So it had these unintended consequences, which were great and grave, and people decided they didn't want to do it.
But predictable. With a prohibition, drugs get more concentrated and more potent. So, of course, distilled liquors was replacing beer.
If there was a value to Prohibition, it was a short-term value in that it sort of broke a pattern. And then the fact that Prohibition went on little more than a decade was too long anyway for that. And the war on drugs has gone on 40 years. If you're looking from a central planner standpoint, if you believe you can control human animals in some kind of overarching way, that you're somehow better than your neighbors, even if you think that way, then the war on drugs, there's still no excuse for it. Mm-hmm. There's just none.
Don't a lot of people say that really the only reason Prohibition ended was because they wanted a tax? They wanted to be able to tax alcohol to pay for the war?
There's, those are arguments.
World War I debts.
World War II. World War I debts. Well, I mean, the fact is, Prohibition came around because of World War I to some extent anyway. Mm-hmm. Remember, the bad guys were the Germans, and Germans were in this country brewing beer. So it was all.
Oh, I'm sure they weren't the only ones.
Well,
it's really
they're the ones really doing it.
It's so amazing that only government can think, or that they can just say something and everything will be resolved. Everybody knows. Doesn't matter. Even some of the better religions of the world will tell you that the person has to be worked on. You can't just say, "Don't do this anymore."
Alcoholics Anonymous will say the only qualification for membership is a desire to stop drinking.
Yeah.
If you don't have, you are unqualified for membership in Alcoholics Anonymous if you do not wish to stop drinking.
Right. And so, my point is, in bringing up the religions, is that for thousands of years we've known that just saying don't do it doesn't cut it. That's not the problem. The problem is the person is. So if you wanted to stop people from drinking, you needed to look elsewhere. Only government stupidity could come up with the idea that, well, we'll just say you can't do it anymore, and that'll stop it.
Mark, I've been thinking about what you just said about the culture of drinking, mm-hmm. and obviously I didn't live during the 1910s or 1920s, and I don't know what it was like. I'm sure there was a lot of problem with alcoholism, but I think there still is a culture of drinking.
There is,
in
certainly.
the U.S. It's an integral part of so many social activities. It's hard for me to remember the last time that I went on a date with someone, or that I was getting intimate with someone and they didn't offer me alcohol or have it themselves. You know what I mean? Or even just going out to a restaurant or something. Everybody has a glass of beer or wine. It's like, if you don't have it, it's not a meal. College, it's all, the weekend centers around drinking. And it was difficult for me as someone who doesn't enjoy alcohol to withstand that.
So let's say the culture of drinking was changed as a result of Prohibition. Mm-hmm. And if you, I can't remember, I think it's called Prohibition, but if you watch some PBS special, I don't know, that guy that does the amazing specials for PBS, the Soda Long series, he's got one there. And it's worth a watch if you care about Prohibition. All of his stuff is worth a watch, frankly, because he's that good of a director. I'm not very good with remembering people's names, especially ones that do TV and movies and stuff like that. But this guy's got, one of those huge names, and I remember it's 2 syllables. Anyway, people are screaming at their radios right now what the guy's name is, and I don't know what it is. Nonetheless, if you just take a watch at it, and I think that, things really did change. One thing you need to consider is, you're in New Hampshire, the drinking state in the Union. And so you're seeing a place where they drink more than most places around the U.S., which isn't A whole bunch more.
Maybe. I wonder how much more.
I see people drinking at lunch, and it floors me. I would have never done that in Florida, especially at work. I mean, people come in from work and drink. What? What? This is unacceptable. Dodd-Frank, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they're killing the mortgage industry. But the Mortgage Minute guy, Roger Schlesinger's, found some ways around these rules and organizations. Private loan sellers are competing directly against the U.S. government, and things look pretty good. Stated income loans are back. They were truly less trouble than traditional mortgages in the past. So just go ahead, state your income, truthfully, obviously, and then get a loan. Rates are great. It's never been easier to get a loan. If you need to refinance or get cash out or you're buying a new home, call the Mortgage Minute guy. He's the guy to talk to. He's been advertising with Free Talk Live for at least a couple years, and he's been on talk radio for many years, running a very successful business. A lot of people have trusted him. A lot of people got the best deal through MortgageMinuteGuy.com. You can give him a call at 866-288-0088. It's MortgageMinuteGuy.com, 866-288-0088. We've been talking about the Silk Road, Prohibition. These are, topics that can be somewhat controversial. We had a guy call in last night. By the way, it's Mark with you.
And Brian.
And Stephanie.
And he claimed that drugs, maybe not marijuana as much, but the hard drugs are violence against your neighbor. Just the existence of them, the use of them, that they're violence because the people who do this and, do this stuff are violent. And I just couldn't get his point of view on that.
Well, that's because the logic isn't there. I mean, the reason that there's violence in the drug trade is because it's a black market illegal activity. But as we're reading here, there's been a study that said taking that activity online and protecting people's privacy via cryptography and letting them mail order drugs made it safer.
And indeed, it made it safer. I wonder. Was that the same guy? I don't know. If
I listened to the call last night.
Did you hear him? Was he the same one that claimed that he would return?
He would obey the Fugitive Slave Act.
Yeah, I mean, this is stunningly
real. The law is the law.
Right. I mean, can you imagine? So, I mean, for the listeners here, what happened was this guy calls in. He essentially believes that, yes, drugs cause violence because there's violence that surrounds drugs, and then we point out it's really the war on drugs that caused the violence. But that's the law, and you need to obey the law. And I'm like, well, look, there are good laws and bad laws, and he didn't really agree or disagree with that statement. I should have given him an opportunity to say that there have been good laws and bad laws, because some people will say that there's bad laws, but you should still follow bad laws.
Yeah. I think he was completely leaving morality out of the picture at all. I mean, it seemed like he did believe in drug prohibition, like he was a supporter of it, and he actually wholeheartedly believed that it hurt people. But I wonder if he actually agreed with the Fugitive Slave Act. I mean, it's pretty hard to agree with that, especially in this day and age.
So what he claimed is essentially if he found an escaping black person back in 1860, that he would call the authorities so that they could take him back to that escaping black person, him or her, back to their master. This is how much this guy believed that the law is the law and you should obey the law. I mean, I have never had anyone on the show say that.
Well, if you'll excuse me, I have an oven I need to get into.
Right. I mean, this is right. Jews, they were illegal in Germany. Was that the law? How many of them should we have gassed? Maybe enslavement wasn't good enough for this guy because that could be stopped. But death, he is probably, let's just pass a law that says there'll be no more death.
Maybe it's a question of empathy. I mean, Mark, didn't you have a study that you brought in last week? I can't remember if we talked about it on the air. I don't think we did, but it was basically that white people believe that the death penalty, or I think it was the death penalty, affects black people disproportionately. And when they find that out, that is indeed true, they support it more.
Right. So apparently this was a study. I would love to see more because I find this difficult to believe. But I like to find things that I find difficult to believe.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
It's a tough pill for me to swallow, right? So the claim of the study, I don't have it sitting here in front of me and can't quote it or anything like that, is essentially that white people support the death penalty at this percentage or whatever. Then when people can be shown, white people in general can be shown that the outcomes are somewhat racially biased to the death penalty, the actual number of supporters, white supporters of the death penalty, go up after the bias is shown. And I find that difficult to believe. I would either say that it should stay the same or it should go down, but not go up.
Well, perhaps they're thinking well, I kind of support this, but what if it happened to me or someone I know?
So you're saying the guy's a bigot? Like, he just doesn't know it? The guy who called in?
No, I'm not saying he's a bigot. I'm saying that perhaps people are maybe more able to accept or swallow a bad policy when they believe that it is not going to affect them or anyone that they care about.
I see what you're saying.
And maybe that was going on for him. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you just have to go back far enough until you can find an ancestor of yours who was poorly affected by whatever laws were out there. For me, I'm somewhat mixed heritage. So.
Of course, we're all human beings, and we all have things in common, regardless of what we look like. So,
I have the understanding that if you are born on the other side of certain lines, you become less human.
Yeah,
you become illegal.
Indeed.
Anyway, we kind of got off on a tangent here, but we were talking about this study that came out that said that the Silk Road actually made drug buying and selling safer and removed the violence from the process. So you want to hear more about what they have to say about this? Okay, so these professors, according to University of Lausanne criminologist David Decay Hetu and University of Manchester law professor Judith Aldridge, that layer of anonymity that the Silk Road provided made technical know-how and online customer service not a propensity for violence, the barrier to entry for dealers on the Silk Road.
Right, and so what they're saying, and this is important, is that to be a drug dealer 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 15 or 20 years ago, what you had to have was to be tougher, meaner, more willing to shoot or kill or harm or do whatever it is. Mm-hmm. You had to be more willing to use violence than the next guy. You had to, or more stealthy in some way. But
now you have to have better customer service. I mean, if that's not an improvement, I don't know what it is.
That's what it is. I mean, you can basically run a good, eBay store, a private eBay store on the Silk Road, and get enough customers to live simply by selling your drugs. And you shouldn't ever come in contact with somebody who has, say, a knife or a gun or a pair of brass knuckles. And that really changes the dynamic of who's in the business and who isn't. Because the people who are good at punching people in the face, not generally the same people who are good at good customer service.
Yeah, I mean, this really eliminates that entire argument about, the drug war creates, gang war. And it creates where people are shooting each other in the streets and all this stuff. With the Silk Road, all of that is gone. I mean, it's gone. That's not happening anymore.
They brought up a great point that the anonymity actually also protects the dealers from their competitors, even knowing who they are. So that's another way it decreases physical incidences of violence.
Sure.
Right. I mean, there's no turf wars when you can ship your stuff around the world.
Yeah, that's exactly what they say. They say the new breed of drug dealer is likely to be relatively free of the violence associated with traditional drug markets, which the title of the paper calls the Silk Road a paradigm-shifting criminal innovation.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Whereas violence in the traditional drug trade was commonly used to gain market share, protect turfs, and resolve conflicts, the virtual location and anonymity that the crypto market provides reduces or eliminates the need or even the ability to resort to violence.
Well, yeah, I mean, not just the need, but if somebody else has the ability, then you have the need, right?
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. Fortunately, we live in sort of a stable society where you're not going to be able to, if you're running a drugstore, Walgreens can't go over to Eckerd's or CVS, and shoot the place up and expect to survive and not go to prison. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially what Silk Road does. It provides a level of sort of stability and protection.
Derek J., let's go to your story that you wanted to share.
Yeah, well, there's this hacker named Weave, and he's been popular for several different bits of activism that he's done in his short life. He's a young man from New Jersey, but he's traveled around the U.S. quite a bit. And he's a security specialist, and so he does sort of that hacking into companies to test their vulnerabilities, and then
white hat hacking.
Yeah, it's sort of a favor to these companies. Well, once upon a time,
if they ask for it, it is.
Well, he didn't ask their permission before hacking into AT&T in a certain way. Just stroke of luck, he found out that certain iPad users, all iPad users of AT&T, have a URL up at the top when they sign in, and that URL is unique to them. So every iPad owner who had AT&T had all of their personal information available online.
What?
But it wasn't searchable. It's not something that you could just Google and find everyone's personal information. So he had this URL, and then he would just add one. As, you know, he wrote this program that said, you know, type in the URL into the browser and pull all the information about every user, and then add one and do it again.
So increment the URL,
exactly. And he pulled out everyone's info, over 120,000 different names and identities, including like Diane Sawyer and other big celebrities. So AT&T was pretty embarrassed, having had all these vulnerabilities exposed. And it turns out that the FBI, the Department of Justice, New Jersey District Court, all sorts of government agencies then went after Weave, whose real name is Andrew Auernheimer, by the way.
So that's not hacking, and in many ways, as far as I'm concerned, that's just revealing adult vulnerability. If you use that information in some illegal fashion, then I feel like he's done something immoral.
Well, right, he didn't hack because he didn't break into a system. The system was open.
Right. There was no hacking. Hacking suggests breaking something apart.
Right.
Well, it's all a mess right now because the appeals court overturned his conviction. So,
really?
Yes, and it wasn't because of the reason you might think, the argument that Mark just made, that it wasn't hacking. The argument that he won his appeal on was that he wasn't tried in the right district. So, New Jersey went after him while the hacking, or so-called hacking, happened in California. So, this is pretty interesting, and it sets a precedent, I would say, for future cases that have to do with internet security based on your location at the time of the so-called attack, right? So,
well, wait a minute. Okay, so the case was overturned based on a jurisdictional issue. Doesn't that mean they can just hit him again with the charges?
Yes, it does, and I'm worried that would happen to him. So, in the meantime, he's done all sorts of fun hacktivism. So
wait, he's not been in prison? What's his...
He was let out of prison because of this. Yes, he did serve about a year. And up to now, all of that time has been inappropriate. Like, he shouldn't have been charged. He shouldn't have served any time. Presumably, the feds are going to continue going after him with this new jurisdictional issue. But one thing that he's done in the meantime is start up an organization called TRO LLC, which is obviously, there you go. So you see it, but he's been on like MSNBC, all these big money shows talking about his company, and they put up the TRO LLC right up there on the screen. They don't even see it.
Something else you should also try is Bitcoin. We've talked a lot about Bitcoin over the years here on Free Talk Live, and it's an amazing technology that is really revolutionizing how money works, taking it out of the hands of banks and governments and putting money into the hands of you, the people. And it's awesome. I mean, I highly recommend learning more about Bitcoin. And one of the best ways to learn more is to go and meet people in real life.
Yeah, there's a Bitcoin conference going on in Chicago, the North American Bitcoin Conference. This is the first Bitcoin conference that I know of that has gone on in the Midwest. So if you're in the Midwest, hey, it's an opportunity to come to the city and check it out. It's going to be at Chicago's McCormick Place South building on July the 19th and 20th. We'll be there doing Free Talk Live, and there'll be lots of other speakers too. Tony Galippi of BitPay, which is a company that allows your business to take Bitcoins without any difficulty. Roger Ver, known as Bitcoin Jesus. Charlie Lee, the creator of Litecoin. Jeff Berwick, the Dollar Vigilante. Trace Meyer of the Armory Wallet. And Peter Smith of blockchain.info. It's a whole bunch of people speaking about a whole bunch of different aspects of Bitcoin and how it can affect you, your business, your life, how it can change your life, new job opportunities, ways to get wealthy. This is a new space, and a lot of people have gotten wealthy in the Bitcoin space. Get your tickets at btcchicago.com. Obviously, you can pay in Bitcoin. We'd love to see you there July 19th and 20th. Chicago's McCormick Place South building, btcchicago.com.
Let's go to the story. New Jersey, apparently there's yet another one of these clothing restriction laws, a dress code, in effect in one town in New Jersey, and I'm wondering if this is the same town. I remember there was a liberty activist who was arrested for basically having kind of one of those Borat-style bathing suits. For anybody who's seen the movie Borat, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It is like a stripe almost, like stripe down one side of the chest, kind of in a V.
Two.
Right down. Well, two stripes down your chest like a V, and then it goes
it's
to
a V.
The crotch area.
It's a V from your shoulders to your crotch.
There you go.
Isn't that called a wicked weasel?
I don't know what it is, but
it's
completely inappropriate for a man to wear, I've got to say.
So anyway, I'm wondering if it's that same town. I'm not really sure about that, but Mark, do you have that story you'd like to share with us?
From PoliceStateUSA.com, Wildwood, New Jersey. People who do not dress in a manner that is deemed acceptable by the government are subject to penalties in this New Jersey shore resort town. According to the government, people must cover their feet, must wear shirts after 8 p.m., and must never allow their pants to sag below 3 inches below their waistline while walking on the popular Wildwood Boardwalk. And I wonder about that. What is the waistline of what? Your outer garment? Your inner garment? Which garment does it matter on as far as your waistline? And where is your waistline? There's some people, and where do you measure it from?
Yeah.
Like if you've got a big pot belly and you measure from, say, the navel,
it's going to be a lot larger than if you measure it your crotch.
A man with a flat stomach versus a man with a large stomach, and your pants sit naturally where it is. I'm pointing out here that when you start deciding where waistlines differ in individuals. I hear that a woman's waistline is supposed to be at her navel. A man's waistline is 1.5 inches below his navel.
Huh.
But that's just some number that somebody put in GQ or something, right?
By the way, I did pull up some information here. The last time we talked about New Jersey boardwalks with dress codes was actually a place called Asbury Park, which is about an hour and 45 minutes north of Wildwood. So this is a completely different boardwalk with a different policy.
I can't imagine the kind of problems they're having in order to put this policy in place.
Well, apparently people with pants down around their butts or whatever.
Fashion cops are prepared to stop pedestrians, issue them tickets for inappropriate or incorrectly worn clothing. Penalties include fines ranging from $25 to $200. Violators may be sentenced to up to 40 hours of community service. Can you imagine going to Wildwood for a little weekend or whatever, and you get slapped with a $200 fine and 40 hours of community service? Where are you going to be going? I mean, do you have to do it in Wildwood? 40 hours? I mean, you're going to be spending a lot on hotels while you stay there and try to fulfill your community service.
It's really amazing that here we are in 2014 and these laws are still out there. This is not the first time something like this has ever existed. There have been beach codes for a long time, especially
in New Jersey.
Do you
remember the old black and white picture of the guy with the tape measure measuring the gal's skirt above her knee to her knee?
That's all this is.
It's all it is. It's just
Nothing has changed.
Just another version of that. So it's very interesting.
Can you run down the restrictions again one more time for me?
Well, in this case, it's your feet must be covered. You must wear shorts.
Really?
Shirts after 8 p.m. and never allow your pants to sag below 3 inches below your waistline.
What kind of beach? I mean, this is on the beach. Your feet have to be covered?
It's on the boardwalk, so it's near the beach. Mayor Ernest.
No sandals?
What does it mean? I don't know what to tell you.
What does it mean to be covered? There's a strap there over the top of my foot. Is that covered?
I don't know.
Does it need 100% coverage?
I remember some flip-flops at one point that were like, it was just a sole glued to your foot. Now, I'm not saying that this was a good idea, but I know it existed.
Huh.
And, so therefore...
When was that? Like the 80s or 90s?
I can't remember exactly when I saw this, but...
Pre-prison or
I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Believe me, I used that as a milestone in my own thinking, trying to figure it out, but I could not tell you. I think it was in the 80s. I'm not sure. Mayor Ernest Triano Jr. defended the dress code, saying that it adds a little bit of decency to our town. The boardwalk provides access to the beach and numerous tourist attractions. It is common for people to wear beach attire. This is the second summer the law has been in effect. Other New Jersey towns also empower police officers to enforce morality and modesty upon pedestrians.
Jeez.
Cape May, New Jersey, requires no person, either male or female, shall be attired in a bathing suit, trunks, or other than usual dress in any public street or any public place after 7 p.m. prior to 7 a.m. With the reference to the boardwalk or promenade, usual dress includes appropriate footwear.
What the hell?
You know, being from Sarasota,
A beach town,
Sarasota, Florida. I would think
city, I guess.
Yeah, beach city. I'm used to people walking around in bathing suits.
Sure, downtown. I mean, you'll see it every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, people, if they're comfortable, if a woman's comfortable walking around in bikini, she's not going to get any trouble in Sarasota for doing it. I know of.
You'll certainly.
They don't want your anal cleft showing, though. However, you mayn't have what is that? A thong.
Ah, really?
Yes.
No thongs allowed in
No
Sarasota.
thongs allowed. Thong.
Even on the beach, you cannot have a thong.
That is correct. It was at one point, at least.
It sounds to me like these folks in New Jersey are just trying to attract a certain demographic to come in summer. Maybe they've got hordes of teenagers who are causing mischief and hooliganism and so forth, and
they want the snooty people who want to make sure they wear full shoes to the beach. Speaking of yards, I actually have a related story here from Southern California's NBC Los Angeles, where the mayor of an affluent Southern California city has been caught on camera leaving a bag of what appeared to be dog feces on his neighbor's property, according to police. The neighbor says he believes this was not an accident. Dennis Neer, the mayor of San Marino, a town of approximately 13,000 people just south of Pasadena, was identified as the person placing a plastic bag into the private walkway of a home in the 1400 block of Charlton Road on Saturday. According to San Marino police, the bag was tied closed and appeared to have been intentionally left at the walkway entrance.
You know, I gotta say, if you're the mayor of a town and you can't even count on the cops to lie for you, what's this country coming to?
Homeowner Philip Lau says that surveillance footage shows Neer and his wife walking. In the video, Neer's wife is seen pointing to Lau's walkway, and then Neer is seen tossing the bag onto it. Lau believes that Neer was seeking revenge for his opposition to the mayor's dog park proposal. Lau is against the dog park because he believes dogs are left there for hours as their owners run errands, and the dogs tend to fight when left unattended.
Yeah.
Lau lives a block away from Lacey Park and as such has a no poop zone sign, or actually more than one sign, in his front lawn. According to Lau, the mayor doesn't like him posting signs like that, but Lau believes it's his right as a homeowner, and Lau told the city council that when people take down their USC and UCLA signs, he'll take down his no poop zone signs. Neer had previously said that he found the bag near the sidewalk, but told NBC4 that he could not know for sure where he picked up the plastic bag before placing it on Lau's walkway. He acknowledged that he did not reach down and place the bag on the walkway, but instead that he was standing up and dropped it, adding that he may have flicked it off a bit. And when you watch the footage, it's a toss. I mean, this guy tosses the bag. This is not a flicking it off a bit or dropping. When asked about the no poop zone sign, the mayor said that he personally doesn't like it, but there has been no animosity between himself and Lau. Mayor added the sign is not the look we want to have in San Marino, but that it is not against any city ordinance. Well, it certainly sounds to me like there's some animosity between him and this homeowner. I mean, why else would he have acquired a bag full of dog poo and tossed it on this man's front walkway as he was walking by his house?
There is, maybe somebody could think of an exception, but there is no reason to acquire a bag of dog poo unless you're planning on using it to send a message.
Well, now, that's not necessarily true. I mean, he could have been out with his dog, and if his dog eliminated in someone's yard, I just did this recently. I picked up after my dog who, pooped in the neighbor's yard. And,
yeah.
And so I went over there with a plastic bag, and I picked that up. And a lot of people will take a plastic bag with them when they're walking their dog, so it's to prevent the same thing from sullying a different neighbor's yard. So, he could have just happened to have had some poop with him, but this certainly seems like a premeditated pooping.
Yeah.
They didn't mention a dog in the story either.
No, I don't think there was a dog in the video. So, according to the rest of the story, the neighbor lives 2 blocks from Mr. Lau, says he regularly walks by Lau's home. Neer said that if he had to do it all over again, he would have walked by Lau's home and left the plastic bag where he says he originally found it, or he would have disposed of it in a trash can. I take responsibility for what happened. I'm sorry it happened. This was a mistake. Well, it was a mistake because you got caught, right? I mean, otherwise you wouldn't be sorry.
Right.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. So there you go. The mayor probably has not been charged with littering. It doesn't sound to me like he's facing any kind of consequences. So the police are protecting him at the very least in that way.
Well, what kind of consequences would there be for tossing something on somebody's lawn?
That's littering.
Yeah, but littering's when you throw it on a public
Is
area.
it?
I'm sorry to tell you that
Really?
the government does. I don't know that the government protects you from having stuff thrown on your lawn. It's their stuff that they're worried about things being thrown on.
Okay, I can't say I've read the littering statute, so I don't really know much about it. Let's go to your
There's
phone
not too
calls.
much trouble generally with litter on private property because the private property owners will get rid of it.
Well, there's got to be illegal dumping and things like that. I don't know. It's worth looking into, I guess.
So I've recently been using a product called My Magic Mud. It's a remedy for teeth that removes plaque and detoxifies the mouth of bacteria that cause cavities. And it's also a whitening product. It is all natural in that it's bentonite clay and activated charcoal. It's black. It's amazing to look at in your mouth. It's as you're brushing your teeth, you're used to seeing sort of white foamy stuff. It's black, watery stuff. And it's a powder, actually, and you just dip your toothbrush in there and go to work. My teeth were noticeably whiter after one application, completely devoid of stains after 4.
Oh.
Yes?
How long does this take? Like the normal time of brushing teeth?
2 minutes, yeah.
That's normal teeth brushing time.
Right. My little Sonicare brush goes for 2 minutes, so I knew how long to do it.
Yes.
And but the thing is it makes my teeth feel slick, like just the after brushing slick all day. And so that's why I think that it really takes care of the bacteria, because that slickness is like dead bacteria, right?
Yeah.
And or living bacteria and dead bacteria, whatever it is, and that film. And so the film just doesn't come back. I brush with this every other day now, and it's amazing, this product. MyMagicMud.com. It was created by Jessica Armon, a liberty-loving homeschool mother of 3. She'll be at PorkFest with us coming up here in a couple of weeks. There'll be jars on sale, but if you're not making it to PorkFest, go to MyMagicMud.com and buy it now. Believe me. First, before you go to the website and you can listen to an interview with biological dentist Dr. Griffin Cole, and he explains a lot of the benefits of My Magic Mud. It's mymagicmud.com, and it's a great product. I cannot recommend it more. I know a lot of our listeners have gotten it. People have already written back and said that they really love it. So please give it a shot. I think you'll I think it'll change the way you brush your teeth.
Jamie is in New York. You're on Free Talk Live. Hi, Jamie.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's on your mind tonight?
First off, I'd just like to mention that I'm a big fan of libertarian brutalism. Hilarious page. But secondly,
oh no,
did you guys hear Tesla release all of their patents and open them up to the public?
It's huge news.
Jeffrey Tucker just posted about that. I reposted it on my wall. If you guys want to read that story, you should go to the Objectivist Girl wall.
I actually have the note from the CEO right here. I'll go ahead and share it. Yesterday there was a wall of Tesla patents in the lobby of our Palo Alto headquarters. That is no longer the case. They have been removed in the spirit of the open source movement for the advancement of electric vehicle technology. Tesla Motors was created to accelerate the advent of sustainable transport. If we clear a path to the creation of compelling electric vehicles but then lay intellectual property landmines behind us to inhibit others, we are acting in a manner contrary to that goal. Tesla will not initiate patent lawsuits against anyone who, in good faith, wants to use our technology. Pretty amazing stuff, Jamie. What do you think?
Yeah, that's epic. That's just awesome news for the movement, for just liberty in general, for just a move towards a more open and free society.
Hopefully more people, more companies will follow suit. I mean, hopefully they won't be the lone wolf in the darkness crying out freedom from patents.